All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the virtual regular city council meeting of the Lakewood City Council, Lakewood, Colorado, January 24th, 2022 to order. And thank you for those who are tuning in. We had a couple technical difficulties on our side, but we have everybody with us, and so we appreciate that. For those calling in for general public comment or to weigh in on one of the agenda items, that number tonight by telephone is 720-707-2699, webinar ID 924-5294-3958, pound. If you do wish to speak, feel free to raise your hand now. We want to make sure we get everybody the opportunity, and you can press *9. And if it just so happens that's not what you wanted to speak on, we'll just skip over you and get you into the right slot. So with that, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Paul?
Here.
Abel?
Here.
Franks?
Here.
Jansen?
Here.
Mayotte Guerrero?
Here.
Olver?
Here.
Shahrazai? Shahrazai?
I'm assuming it's me, so here.
Thank you. Springsteen?
Here.
Thank you. Stewart?
Here.
Strong?
Here.
Vincent?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, if you now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll have a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Item 4, statement of conflict of interest. All members of City Council have the responsibility to comply with the terms of Charter 7.2B and excuse themselves from voting on any matter in which they determine they have a personal, financial, or business interest. The City Council is empowered by Charter 7.2B to agree by a unanimous vote, excluding the member at issue, to excuse any member of the council from voting on a matter in which they determine such member has a personal, financial, or business interest. We'll now move into item 5, public comment. This is the point in the meeting where the public is invited to address the City Council on items that did not appear on the agenda. All comments should be directed to City Council. I ask that all folks calling in tonight observe the same decorum of City Council chambers. The clerk will call either your name or your last 4 digits. We will make sure that we get you plugged in. And if you give us, if we don't have your name and your ward or your address for the record, I'll get your 30 seconds going, or your 3 minutes going. When you're at 30 seconds, you'll hear and when your time is up again, you will hear the ding again. So with that, Madam Clerk, please.
First call, Margaret Muff.
All right, Miss Muff, good evening, welcome. If you give us your address or ward, we'll get you started.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great, my name is Margaret Muff. I'm in Ward 1.
Great, welcome. And you might have an echo, so I don't know if you're on 2 devices.
I am. Sorry about that. Let me fix that real quick.
Okay, we haven't started your time.
Is that better?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. The concern I would like you to address, and I know this is a problem that you didn't create, but I need your help fixing it. My neighbors and I have a major concern with safety and public safety with increased traffic in our neighborhood. We live near West 23rd Avenue in Youngfield. My home and many homes in this neighborhood were built in the late 1950s. This area has remained largely the same for over 50 years. It's a residential area with kids. I know it's zoned for mixed use, and there are restaurants and other businesses close by. The majority of businesses and restaurants peacefully coexist with the neighborhood, and I think we enjoy the mixed use nature of it. However, in December 2016, early 2017, Abruzzi's Fire and Vine opened. Abruzzi's restaurant is very popular on any given afternoon and evening. In addition to all those patrons in their own parking lot, our street has an additional 30 cars parked on it. This is 30 cars at lunch and then a new set of 30 cars at dinner time. This is an extra 60 cars a day. Is it a lot? Well, it adds up. That's 420 cars a week, 1,800 cars a month, maybe 21,600 extra parked cars a year on our street alone. And this isn't even the residents or our guests. 2 streets in this neighborhood bear the brunt of this particular restaurant's parking. Our roads weren't designed for this kind of congestion. It could hinder emergency vehicles, fire trucks, and EMS from addressing any public safety concerns. I'm also concerned about fire hydrant accessibility and emergency medical services, not being able to access driveways. This may be a city and county code requirement. Increased traffic has brought in property damage and concern for the safety of our kids. And I would just note that there are folks who live in our neighborhood go to the restaurant, but the vast majority of the folks who are going there don't live here. This is destination dining. They don't care about our kids or our properties. They drive fast. They do U-turns. They run over grass. They damage sprinkler heads. Neighbors have had to put up posts for edges on their driveway to deter drivers from running over property. Neighbors put cones in their driveways just to prevent restaurant goers from turning around in their driveways. And oftentimes we can't even park in front of our own home because strangers are parked on our street. So please help us. This restaurant has a happy hour that runs from 2 to 6 every day. By all accounts, it's a wonderful happy hour. Many people enjoy it, but we do have folks that have had a few pops that are driving fast in our neighborhood. And I am concerned about our kids and our safety. So I need your help. I would respectfully suggest that you consider resident-only parking and enforcement for the violators. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for calling. And I don't know if you're going to stay for the rest of the public comment. I usually address everything after, but we have quite a few hands up. So I would just encourage, I don't know if you've been in contact with Councilor Abel and Shahrazai, but I think that would be the best start place to email both or reach out to them, and we can begin the conversation, something we're certainly aware of as well in the past. All right, next, Madam Clerk.
All ending in 3852.
All right, 3852, good evening. If you give us your name and address or ward, I'll get your 3 minutes going.
Hi, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Molinar, and I'm a resident of Ward 1. I live on West 12th Avenue.
Good evening.
Hi, dear members of the City Council and Mayor Paul. As I said, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Molinar. I know some of you, but some people are new to me. And I am a cultural anthropologist, and I teach at Regis University. And my research focuses on the social cultural context of energy production and energy consumption. I'm an active member of Sustainable Ivor, part of the Sustainable Neighborhood Network, and a group that calls itself Clean Energy Lakewood. I wanted to introduce myself to some of the new council members and let this new council know that many people in Lakewood care about sustainability. Not all these people will come to City Council to meet you, as some folks find public speaking scary. Some people do not know how to make public comments. Some people feel they cannot get political. And some people, their personal and professional lives prohibit them from speaking at this day and time. But even though you may not meet them here at City Council, many people care about sustainability. And I've come to understand that many of you also care a great deal about sustainability. And that is something that I and others are very excited about. I want to ask you tonight to make sustainability an official priority for the coming council year. It is not the first time I'm making this request, but unfortunately, frequently, my timing and other people's timing wasn't always perfect to ask for this. And hopefully tonight is a good time to ask you for this. So there are a few things that I and my friends at Clean Energy Lakewood hope you will be able to work on this year, in addition to making sustainability a #1 priority at your retreat. One of my things is commit to sustainability plan update or an upgrade within the time served by the council. There's some new realities. We know that with Excel's renewable electricity percentage going up, our goals may need an update as well. So I would like you to think about that and act upon that. I also hope that you will set policy that all proposals that come to council must have a sort of a filter of equity and sustainability, like you do that with the financial implications of everything that comes to council. And this is something that Dana Goodwine has worked on. And I really hope that that is something that we continue to work on and can make a reality. Also, I would like to talk about the Amendment 13, the Enhanced Development Menu, and I hope that you will push this forward. It was recently approved almost unanimously through the Planning Commission with very good modifications that strengthen the program, and we hope this will be moved forward quickly. And my final point is actually about the slash facility, or the lack of slash facility. I know that in the past, the city council has talked about like creating a slash facility in partnership with Jeffco, one that would even have like an educational component. So we hope that you can bring some funding and move this forward, or create your own slash facility if we cannot partner with Jeffco and make this happen on short notice. All right, these are some of my points. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and I hope to see you soon.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Lenore Herstovitz.
All right. Good evening, Lenore. Get you in here and get you settled and get your time going.
Okay. Good evening, Council. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to update everyone on the CCU lawsuit. We do have new trial dates set. The 2-day court trial is set to start on June 9th at 8 a.m. in courtroom 400 of the Jefferson County District Court. There are two pretrial readiness conferences that have been set for April 29th at 1:15 p.m. And the second one is June 2nd at 1:15 p.m. in the same courtroom. All of these are hybrid meetings and accessible in WebEx, and I will provide the access code as the dates approach, and we'll keep you informed if there are any changes. Now, as I was preparing this, it crossed my mind as to why I'm presenting this information to you, to this body, instead of the other way around. It's my hope that this council is being provided with up-to-date information on all legal matters, especially those that result from council actions. Our non-elected city officials should not be determining what our elected council members are permitted to know. No one is asking for a reveal of privileged information, but I am afraid that secrecy rather than transparency is the dominant policy. A fully informed body can best represent its constituents and their concerns. I am feeling somewhat optimistic when I see some of our new counselors thinking beyond the staff-provided packets and asking challenging, thoughtful questions. Please continue to do so. I hope in your upcoming retreat, you will demand more transparency moving forward. Secrecy breeds distrust, and we all need to work together to solve the problems facing this city, and we can't do that without honest, open communication. Thank you.
All right. Next, Madam Clerk.
Call ending in 2542.
All right, 2542. If you give us your name and address or ward, we'll get you started.
Lauren Mayon, Ward 1.
Great, good evening.
Good evening, council members. So I will be completing the comments from Elizabeth Molinar, and together we came tonight to make just 2 3-minute comments on behalf of Clean Energy Lakewood. We will circle back with more detailed comments on the 14th before the annual retreat, but our goal tonight was to already get started a little bit with sustainability and highlight key things that you could consider during your strategy retreat to highlight in city goals. So the first part is really the means that we're giving ourselves as a city. We have less than 4 people working on sustainability in a staff of 1,000. We have similar cities of same size with same types of sustainability objectives like Fort Collins or Boulder, who have anywhere between 24 and 36 full-time equivalents working on sustainability. And so the first thing we want you to be aware of is that we have not given ourselves the means to implement our plan, and we need to head quickly towards a team of 12 people. We also need to elevate the profile of the Chief Sustainability Officer, who right now is levels down in the city administration with very little power and authority, and in fact, forced a great deal of concern for the hierarchy and various aspects linked to his low position. And we want to see if we can put in place a position with a real chief level sustainability office in the city. And finally, we need to think about the budgets of sustainability departments once we've determined concrete objectives and key functions in the department: renewable energy, energy efficiency, low-income segments, water consumption, writing, and so forth. We need to assign commensurate budgets so this team function. One example, Elizabeth touched on Amendment 13 and how that will, the collection of fees will create a possibility for rebates to help existing Lakewood residents fund energy retrofits that reduce their bills. Well, we probably need budgets beyond what those fees will generate, and we hope you'll consider those aspects. Other concrete goals, and I'll just list them very quick. You can accelerate the green energy transition of our municipal buildings, accelerate the tree planting programs and servicing of trees in the city, accelerate multimodal and bicycle transportation and infrastructure, focus on a solar garden of some type and making available to Coloradans subscribing to solar gardens. You can strengthen recycling rules so that haulers have to offer recycling in their base rates and charge more when based on trash volume. Elizabeth mentioned the slash and composting components. So am I at 3 minutes?
Oh yeah, over 3 minutes. So.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, Loren. Thank you. All right. Next.
Joshua Comden.
All right, Mr. Comden. Good evening. Let me get my timer reset. All right. Go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. My name is Joshua Comden, Ward 1. Just want to talk about myself personally. I moved here about 2 years ago, and what's nice about the position I have in my career is that I I earn about 35% higher than the median household income for Lakewood. And over these 2 years, I've been saving up some money. Hopefully, maybe one day I'll be able to buy a home. And so on the MLK weekend, I decided to go out with my wife to, do some like window shopping of what I could find in the area. And to my surprise was that based on my income and doing all the mortgage calculators and all that, what I should be limiting myself to are homes that are $360,000 or less. But unfortunately, what I've noticed is just about everything in Lakewood is way out of my price range. And I mean, I did see something on Zillow on Van Gordon Street, this like $375,000 contractor special, which is 2-bedroom, 0 bathroom, 600 square feet. And if you look at the pictures, it's completely gutted. And I'm thinking maybe instead of getting a PhD in applied math, maybe I should have gotten it in remodeling homes. But I know we can play the world's smallest violin because Josh can't enter the home ownership market. But if I am 35% higher than the median household income for Lakewood and am having a very difficult time of getting out of renting and into home ownership, I think there's a lot of people that are in worse situations that their chances have gotten even dimmer. So I know I'm not asking you to fix the US housing market because that's too much. But I am asking you to stop making it worse for your constituents by limiting and putting all these limits on what can be built and everything like that. So yeah, I thank you for listening to me. And I think I represent a bunch of people out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Call ending in 5361.
Good evening, 5361. If you want to give us your name and address or ward, I'll get you going.
Hi, good evening, council. I wish I could say it was a pleasure to be calling in, but it's not. This is David, and I live in District 9 in Denver. The city of Lakewood does not discriminate on a basis of race, age, national origin, color, creed, religion, sex, sexual orientation, or disability. And well, I should stop there because today I got to listen to Amir Allen's case, which was extended again to sometime in early April. If I'm going to ask a few questions, you don't have to answer them. It's up to you. If you didn't discriminate, why is it known amongst the Black community that Lakewood is spelled with 3 Ks in the middle? Why is it that people in the Black community say not to drive through Lakewood? Why is it known in the Black community that Jefferson County is disproportionately filled with people that are Black in their jail? Those are just a few of the questions I'd like you to ask yourselves. And if you're a resident in this place, maybe you should be asking those same questions too, because that's not a very good place, a very good thing to be known by. Also, let's see here. Today, the city flat out lied about Clifford being found by the 10th Circuit to use excessive force against LaToya Davis, and they decided not to give information to Amir's lawyer. That was blocked, and it was said blocked by not being very specific. The analogy I would make was maybe if, no, I'm not going to say that. It was very, very specific. It was very narrow. There was just several things that were asked for, and it was pretty ridiculous. And for the person asking about sustainability, it's very difficult to spend money on sustainability and hire people for sustainability when all your money goes to the police department. It would be very helpful if that was not the case. Maybe some stuff towards human services, like the STAR program, like programs that don't send police officers to all calls because police officers aren't needed they actually probably themselves don't actually want to be at a lot of these calls. But those are the calls that end up going bad. Those are the calls where people get hurt and, God forbid, killed. Let's see here. I think that might be all I'm going to say tonight. One second. I just want to make sure, look at one last quick thing and see if I have any other notes. Oh, and what about I believe, was it 6 weeks that we didn't hear about the Independent Ethics Commission? When, was it 2 hours that was it 2 hours? I think the mayor had the information after he sent it off and waited 6 weeks for people to find out about it. That's really nice. Really nice. I'd say that right there seems like intimidation, discrimination. I don't know. We can go look through some other parts of that, but y'all have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
You too. Thanks for calling in. All right. Next up.
Call ending in 1313.
All right, 1313. Give us your name and address or name and ward. We'll get you started. Go and unmute with *6. Madam Clerk, was that 1313? Were those? I can't see the last four.
Yes, correct.
All right, 1313, you're up. Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the next one.
Sarah Nelson.
Good evening, Ms. Nelson. If you just give us your ward or address, we'll get you going.
Hey there, Sarah Nelson, Ward 1. You know, a little bird told me, you guys hearing me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I got wind on Facebook that some folks were going to ask for the city council to pass a resolution to ask the county commission to fire Dr. Comstock, the head of public health. And I just wanted to express, as a parent of a Jeffco student, that I actually really appreciate Dr. Comstock's last minute mask order, since our superintendent wasn't going to do anything about that. I think that masks are a really important part of a multi-layered protection plan to keep our kids as healthy as possible in school. And so, you know, I just wanted to let you guys know that there are a lot of parents who are actually really appreciative of Dr. Comstock, you know, putting her foot down on the mask issue. And also, I just wanted to also chime in and say, yes, please, on the / facility. And that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, caller 1313, you're the only one left. If anybody else who hasn't had a chance to speak under general public comment, please raise your hand. All right, 1313, you are unmuted. If you want to give us your name and address or ward, I'll start your 3 minutes.
Yes, this is Linda Geese and Ward 5. And thank you for allowing me to tune in. This is my first time for calling in, so got confused between my 6s and my 9s. A couple of things. One of the items that I am very interested in, we had a meeting yesterday over at Bear Creek Lake Park. That's the one that I'm primarily calling about. And as far as adding the water in order to have some retention for water for, I believe that it's Brighton, Dacona, and also Berthoud. It's something that I'm very worried about because of the fact that we have got such wonderful use for all of our citizens here in Lakewood, as well as so many others that do come and enjoy our community, you know, residential wildlife park, kayaking and fishing area. And the number of people that bike is amazing. The people that just normally hike, walking your dogs. There's so many recreational things that we can do. The Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts that go over to camp, just the families that use the camping grounds and such. Not to mention the fact that they've got the target practicing for the bow and arrows and such. I think that it's something that would be horribly missed if that was to have been flooded out. One of the major concerns that I also have is that we do have some animals, the eagles, the elk, the raccoons, the bats, the fox, just any of our natural nature that would be displaced. And they have nowhere to go at this time, because even at this point, with the additional new construction going over there by Rooney Road and and just north of the Bear Creek Lake Park, there's no place else for them to live. Where would they go? They can't go over the hill to go into Morrison as well. And I think that it would just be a crime to have our nature that so many kids and family members enjoy. My daughter is one of the instructors for a wonderful program. It's called Little Bellas, and they teach little girls between 6 and 14 how to go mountain biking on the dirt roads that are dirt paths that's going through the park. And it would break my heart, as well as my daughter's heart and all those little girls in the summertime, to go over and learn how to ride a bike on a safe place without having to worry about cars and other traffic that would be in their way. So in short, that's primarily what I'm calling about. Also, I'm hoping that as the gentleman spoke about renting, I would hope that we would be able to not build any more apartments. I think that we've got an overabundance of apartments, and it's time that we built homes that people can buy, whether it be a condo, which I know the builder defect law is one of the stipulations there. That's a problem.
To wrap it up.
Townhouses and single family dwellings. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? General public comment? I do not see any more, so I'll close general public comment. And again, I do see Ms. Muff is still on, so I would reiterate to reach out to Councilors Abel and Shahrazai. There's a question about legal. We do receive monthly updates that are very thorough, and of course, any member of council is welcome to engage with our city attorney for any questions related to our legal issues. For Ms. Geis, you can go to our website, lakewood.org, type in Bear Creek Lake Park, and the expansion will pop down. And there's a lot of background information and a way to stay engaged with that process, as it's not our process per se, even though it would affect folks in the city of Lakewood. So that's a great resource. And of course, Mr. Comden, no violin needed. I think a lot of folks, especially first-time home buyers at every level, are truly struggling to find a way and a place to call home. All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda is to expedite council action. It contains both resolutions and first reading ordinances. I do not believe there's any ordinances. Resolutions are items of a routine nature. A member of the public will have an opportunity in a moment to comment on any of the proposed resolutions. Any council member may request an item on the consent agenda be removed for separate discussion and action under general business. Will the city clerk please read the items on the consent agenda into the record?
The consent agenda consists of items 6 through 8. Item 6, Resolution 2022-7, approving city council appointments to various boards and committees. Item 7, Resolution 2022-8, supporting a grant application to Colorado Department of Local Affairs Affordable Housing Planning Grant Program, requesting funding for Strategic House Strategy and Action Plan, and authorizing execution of grant agreement if approved. Item 8, accepting minutes of boards and commissions meetings, LAC Executive Committee meeting, October 6, 2021.
Right, thank you. Councilor Jansen.
Yes, I'd like to have item 7 pulled for a separate vote.
Okay, we'll move item 7 to general business. I'll open the public comment on the consent agenda. Anybody wish to speak on the consent agenda items? All right, I'll close public comment. I'll ask Mayor Pro Tem Vincent for a motion.
Mayor Paul, I move for the acceptance of the minutes of the boards and commissions and for adoption of all resolutions, with the exception of item 7, all of which are included in the consent agenda items introduced into the record by the city clerk.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second by Councilor Franks. Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion on consent, please cast your votes. All right, and that passes 11 ayes and 0 nays. Will the clerk please read item 9 into the record?
Item 9, Resolution 2022-9, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement, IGA, with the Alameda Corridor Business Improvement District, the City of Lakewood, and the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority, LRA, for the maintenance of Alameda streetscapes improvements.
All right, I'll open the public hearing on Resolution 2022-9. I don't see any hands up.
There are no hands up.
So I'll go ahead and close that. I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith, who I believe has a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. Thank you for taking this opportunity to consider this particular issue that's in front of us. I do have a presentation on here. Let me see if I can share the screen to put the PowerPoint up in front of us. And I believe I can do that now. Terrific. Can folks see that? A thumbs up from someone. There you go. All right. Terrific.
No, nobody can see anything. I mean, presentation related.
Hang on just a second. It indicates that it's going there. Hang on. Let me rework it, see if I can get her done. Here. How about now?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the guidance there, sir. The City Council meeting, obviously, tonight is involving a resolution 2022-6. And this resolution, if approved, would do 3 things. I'll run through them real quick, and then we'll do a little background information on here. It authorizes the city to enter into a 3-party IGA or intergovernmental agreement with the LRA, which is the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority, and the Alameda Corridor Business Improvement District. The IGA outlines the responsibilities for the maintenance of the landscaping components of the Alameda streetscape improvements, and it authorizes the city manager to sign and execute that IGA. Now, I'm saying this kind of straightforward in here, but there's a lot to unpack in this, and several words here probably stand out, and I've highlighted them in this slide here because I'm going to go through and give a little background information on all of these so that we get more background information on what this actual resolution and this IGA do. Again, IGAs are intergovernmental agreements. They're agreements between just governmental entities. And generally speaking, when we enter into those, we want the City Council to be aware of the arrangements that we do with other governmental entities. The next part of this is the Alameda streetscape improvements themselves. And so I'll talk a little bit about this. Many folks that have been around for a while are familiar with those. This happens to be a picture of the Alameda corridor. We're looking to the east towards the city of Denver. You can see that in the background. And you can see this beautiful landscaping that happens on both sides of the street. This is fairly atypical, and we'll talk a little bit about that some more. But if you can see my cursor on here, you can see the Chase Bank right here, and you can see the right-of-way that we've got here where that has been landscaped with the Alameda Streetscape project. You have the sidewalks that run up both the north and the south side of Alameda. One of the advantages of this project was to be able to get sidewalks all the way from Sheridan, which is our border, all the way up to Wadsworth on both sides. So adding that pedestrian walkway. I'd invite people to take a look at this project firsthand. If you go out to the east on Alameda, get all the way to Federal and Denver and turn around and come back. As you come back and you cross Sheridan, you'll notice that it has a very distinct feel to it. It's a very different sort of an arrangement because most of the placemaking elements that this landscaping and these sidewalks provide is something that's well worth preserving. This is looking the other direction on Alameda towards the mountains in here. And you can see that that large, wide right of way. And I'm going to put a little scaler up here in just a second. In the foreground here on the upper or the lower right, you can see the Easter Seals of Colorado on that side. You can see the 5800, the Metro West project over on this side. You can see Midas and the SLP Auto Glass facilities. And the reason I'm pointing this out is that typically speaking, when we're maintaining the right-of-way or doing the right-of-way, the property owners that are adjacent to the right-of-way do that maintenance. And so this is something a little atypical here, and that's why it's coming here before the council. I'll go ahead and click again and show that the right-of-way across Alameda is incredibly wide. All of that right-of-way is public right-of-way. It's the city that owns that right-of-way or maintains that right-of-way on behalf of the public. And we have a responsibility to make sure that that right-of-way is well maintained and that it's easy to go from one place to the other because everybody in the public uses that right-of-way. That right-of-way is very wide because originally folks in Denver wanted Alameda to be this long parkway esplanade that ran from Denver up to the mountain parks, up to Red Rocks and that sort of thing. And they really envisioned this tree-lined corridor with lots of landscape, lots of amenities. So as folks were traveling from Denver to the mountain parks, they would have this incredible road in here. That right-of-way was obtained back in the 1920s and the 1930s, and it took us all the way up until the last couple of years to get that landscaping in there, which always goes to show you that the first 8 or 9 decades are always the toughest. But as soon as we got past that and landscaped this, we're very proud of this corridor. We want to be able to maintain it. A lot of folks have seen this entryway marker in here. This is not part of the landscaping agreement that's before council or the IGA. This is what we call hardscape, and the hardscape is still within that city maintenance, city control. So if something were to happen to this particular monument, the city would still be doing the maintenance on that. Same thing for the gateway marker up on the Alameda and Wadsworth end of the corridor. But as you can see here in this picture, lots of landscaping elements that need to be nurtured and brought along in here. So you see the trees that have been planted. Hundreds of trees were planted as part of this project, all up and down Alameda. Eventually, those trees will grow up to create shade all up and down the corridor, and it will really realize that vision that happened 80 years ago. Well, there are 2 different units of government that are going to be incorporated in this agreement, 3 altogether, but some of them are a little not nearly as obvious. I've had an opportunity to have some conversations today with folks. I wanted to make sure that there was some understanding of all of these. As you see kind of here, this Venn diagram, you get the circles, you know, the circles that kind of represent one thing and represent another, and then where they overlap is where those things are. It's probably best to think of the Lakewood City Council and the LRA Board of Commissioners as 2 distinct units of government. They come close, but they don't actually touch. And that's kind of difficult to keep that in mind because these very photogenic people are your city council right up there, those 11 representatives. And of course, the 11 representatives of the LRA Board of Commissioners are those now familiar 11 photogenic people on the bottom. But as we consider things for the council, as we consider things for the Board of Commissioners, they're really 2 different bodies thinking about these things in a little bit different manner. The LRA, the Urban Renewal Authority, their basic mission is always to mitigate blighting conditions within the urban renewal areas. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But taking a look at that city government, you can kind of see that on the right-hand side is a map, a very simplified map of the city of Lakewood. On the left is the annual budget. What this indicates to you is that the city has a completely separate budget. Our revenues are different in the city budget. Our expenditures are different. And generally speaking, the council is contemplating things that are for the whole of the city. Everywhere from Sheridan all the way out to the C470 area, Wadsworth down the north-south spine there, Kipling basically down the middle of Lakewood. Essentially, even though council members represent different wards, the idea is to be thoughtful about the city as a whole. Taking a look at the LRA, a little different focus on there. As I mentioned, there is that mitigation of blight as their central mission. We have a different set of revenue streams. We have a different set of expenditures. That's why we have a different separate budget. You see the cover right there. The LRA is concentrating on two corridors. There are actually 4 LRA areas or urban renewal areas in those corridors, but they basically run adjacent to Alameda Avenue and to Colfax Avenue. And one of the dynamics of the way in which funds are allocated and spent there is funds that are raised in that urban renewal area, that come from that urban renewal area, can only be spent in that urban renewal area. The measure, there's a contemplation tonight, is a budgeted LRA expense. So the expense of maintaining this, the streetscape elements, is not coming from the general fund or from those city funds on there. They're coming directly from the urban renewal fund or the LRA fund. Third unit of government that some folks may or may not be familiar with is the Business Improvement District that runs along the Alameda corridor. It also has a separate set of revenues and expenditures and interest and things that they would like to take care of. And they're on a much more focused area. As you can see on that map, they only run along the Alameda corridor and really basically from that Wadsworth on over to Sheridan. There's a little bit that goes to the other side of the west side of Wadsworth there. But that's where they focus. And that's pretty much one of the reasons why we would like them to be involved and why they would like to be involved in maintaining all of those streetscape improvements, is because they're very focused on this area. They walk the area every day. They know the area every day. They live it and breathe it. Whereas there are 44 square miles in all of the city, their element is very focused along that Alameda corridor. The agreement itself has 3 tranches in it. Tranche is just a word that means a portion of, and it's used a lot of times in financial transactions to kind of group different kinds of financial transactions. In this case, the first tranche of the 3 is $40,000 that's provided by the Alameda Corridor Business Improvement District. And that goes towards consultation, irrigation, weeding, tending, general upkeep of the whole area. The Alameda Corridor bid would be responsible for directing those, managing those activities on behalf of this agreement. The second tranche is $65,000. That's provided by the LRA, and it comes from those LRA funds. There, again, the same sorts of things that are in tranche 1 in terms of what's being done to maintain the streetscape. The money is provided by the LRA. Now, the bid would be continuing to manage those contracts, be managing those the ways in which those things get done. The LRA would just be reimbursing them up to that $65,000 mark. So after we get through tranche 1 and tranche 2, we spend $105,000 to maintain those streetscape improvements within a single calendar year. Tranche 3 would go into effect, and that's as needed tranche. And essentially there's $30,000 in total there. 15 would be provided by the Business Improvement District. The other 15 would be provided by the LRA. And all of the expenses there are split 50-50 all the way up to the end of that tranche. If folks are wondering, if the end of the tranche is reached and there's still maintenance to be done and whatnot, it would come back over to the LRA, and the LRA would manage the activities as well as provide the dollars that would be needed in order to maintain those elements. I don't think I mentioned it before, but I want to mention it now. The bid is a series of property owners that have voluntarily agreed to tax themselves to provide dollars to the areas that are within the bid. So essentially they volunteer to provide a few mills on their property taxes so the bid has dollars to work with and can make this project come together. All of the expenditures in this project, all the way up through that last tranche, are managed by the Alameda Corridor Business Improvement District. And tranche 2 expenditures, again, are reimbursed by the LRA. Bid is managing it. LRA is providing the funding and reimbursement. So just to go through it one more time with the resolution that's in front of you, 2022-9, it authorizes the city to enter into this 3-party IGA with the LRA and the Alameda Corridor Business Improvement District. The IGA outlines the responsibilities for the maintenance of landscaping components and the Alameda streetscape improvements. Authorizes the city manager to sign and execute the IGA. Then I added one more on here, is that the approval of the LRA board is also needed in order to implement this IGA. Now, because the constituents there, or the Board of Commissioners, are the same folks as the council, you would presume that if the council approved it, the board would approve it there, but theoretically that doesn't necessarily hold true. So with that, I will take any questions that you may have. Happy to answer that. That ends my presentation. So I will stop sharing the screen, turn it back to the mayor, and gather any questions that folks might have about this particular resolution.
All right. Thank you for that thorough presentation. Councillor Abel.
Thanks, Robert. And that Alameda streetscape is beautiful. We need it on Colfax, Wadsworth, Garrison, well, I could go on. How do we handle the maintenance now?
The maintenance now is being handled by the LRA as part of the Alameda Streetscape installation project. Obviously, we were installing this over the last couple of years. When folks install landscaping materials and whatnot, there's usually a warranty on those materials for a year. And because we did it in phases, parts of the corridor have been maintained entirely by the LRA through a third-party vendor contract. The other parts of it have been maintained by those that were installing those improvements as they went along.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. And I would be remiss, just also Tom Quinn, Executive Director at the Alameda Corridor Business Improvement District, is with us as well if there's any questions. Councillor Jansen.
Yes, thank you for that wonderful presentation. I am wondering about the plants chosen. Are you guys using more drought resistant, water friendly, I guess unwater friendly plants?
I like that distinction. Yes, unwater friendly is probably a way to address it. Yes, the entire project was designed from one end to the other to have plants that made sense in the Colorado environment. So while you did see a lot of green in those pictures in there, there's not a lot of Kentucky bluegrass out there. There's a lot of drought resistant materials. There's a lot of xeriscaping that's involved with it. And if you see it from above, it's really beautiful. It kind of undulates and it creates these levels of plants that are somewhat tall and somewhat short. So as you're walking down the corridor on either side, your perception of what's happening there is a very deep sort of garden experience. It's an urban garden that you're walking through.
So I also want to know, what's the best place to find detailed financials for the BID?
The BID is an independent unit of government, and they have their budget and whatnot. The city council oversees the business improvement district. So every year around September, the city council approves their operating plan and their budget for the next year. So that happened in October of this last year with the previous city council. You certainly could reach out to Tom Quinn, the executive director out there, and I'm sure he'd be happy to work with you on all of the financials of the business improvement district.
One more question. You're using a drip system? I'm assuming you're using a drip system on the plants.
It's an underground irrigation. It's a sprinkler system.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Councillor Olver.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. I have a fairly simple question, I think. How do you decide where you're going to be working? And in particular, I'm asking to do what you're talking about doing, and I love what you're talking about doing. Does it have to be blighted? Does it have to be designated as blighted? Because I'm looking, it's like all of Colfax, and I agree some of it might be blighted, but not all of it, and Belmar, and I don't think Belmar's blighted at all. So I'm wondering, if I vote yes down the road, do I also have to vote yes that this area is blighted because I voted today that this is, So my question is this tied into blight, hand in glove kind of thing, or is it kind of separate and we're going, hey, this is an area that we really need to work on?
Generally speaking, the LRA, or the Urban Renewal Authority, works all inside blighted areas, and that blighted area is defined by the state statute. There's 11 characteristics, and the city council declares that area is blighted based on its ability to meet those criteria, those 11 criteria. So the dollars that are generated through the Urban Renewal Authority do go into blighted areas, and those areas just happen to be right now on Alameda and Colfax. if the city council wanted to entertain other areas as potentially being blighted and use this urban renewal tool in other areas, that would be a completely separate issue that would go forward. It wouldn't have anything to do with what we're doing tonight. It would be a brand new consideration somewhere.
I don't think that's what I was saying. It's like I'm saying everywhere you're spending money now has to already have a blight designation, doesn't it?
Yes, correct. The LRA dollars have to be spent in the LRA area. Yes.
Right. Okay. That's all I needed to know. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, and Councilor Oliver, for reference, so special projects such as this, or there was a betterment project for the Wadsworth station where the LRA participated in putting more money into that station, as well as Creekside on Colfax and Wadsworth. So I guess maybe to your question, while these dollars have to stay in these areas, if you wanted to look at other median type projects, that would be, certainly a different discussion for you to bring forth to council, say at an annual planning meeting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not locked into calling these blighted down the road when I don't want to call these blighted down, everything blighted down the road. I just want to make sure I'm not locked into it. And I don't want somebody coming back and saying, Wolver's flip-flopping because he voted in January to call this place blighted, and in May said, no, it's not blighted. I'm just trying to make sure that there's a difference there.
Well, somebody probably will. Just kidding. Councilor Springsteen?
I had just wanted to ask, I had seen some emails of concerned constituents in Ward 3 about some of the trees that were planted along there that she thought were dying from lack of water. And I don't know, just this discussion reminded me of that. So I wanted to ask you about that. That was all.
You bet. And one thing that I've learned through this entire process is that there are folks that have lots of concerns about different types of landscaping. And so on one day, folks will be telling me that, oh, it's being watered too much or it's being watered too little. And so I rely on a lot of the folks out of the community resources department. And then we also have other consultants that help us to get to the right place. In all honesty, there are some plants that when they were installed may not have been installed incorrectly, or they had trouble, they're struggling. We will replace all of those plants that are really literally dead. But those that are in a place where they need to go and maybe they need more water, we'll make sure that they get what they need so that we have the greatest chance of making certain that everything lives and thrives in the corridor.
Councilor Shahrazai?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to share too, less of a question, more of a comment. I had the opportunity to tour the corridor a couple of weeks ago, and I was just really impressed by the area. I think, Robert, you did a great job of sharing, there's a distinction to this part of Alameda. And then in addition to that, I was really impressed by the BID's opportunity to connect with the community to help support the future maintenance needs. So both to the north of Alameda with some of our folks in O'Kane Park and to the south with Weir Gulch Gardens. I think it's a fantastic way for us to see community buy-in on this project. And so really looking forward to seeing what comes next in that area of the corridor. So.
Thank you. All right, Council, if that exhausts the questions, I'll ask Mayor Pro Tem Vincent for a motion.
Mayor, I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-9.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any other questions? Please cast your votes. And that passes 11 ayes, 0 nays. All right, thanks. Kind of can only see half of that, Councilor Guerrero, but I got you. I saw green. Okay, general business. Will the clerk please read in back into the record item number 7?
Item 7, Resolution 2022-8, supporting a grant application to Colorado Department of Local Affairs Affordable Housing Planning Grant Program, requesting funding for strategic housing strategy and action plan, and authorizing execution of grant agreement if approved.
Right, I'll now reopen the public hearing on this particular item. Anybody wish to speak on resolution 2022-8? Seeing none, I'll close that and I'll ask for a motion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Paul, I move for the acceptance and the adoption of Resolution 7. Or do I go through the whole thing again?
Let's go ahead and just make a motion for the adoption of resolution 2022-8.
Okay. I move for the adoption of the resolution 2022-8.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Councilor Jensen, do you want to speak to the vote? Okay. Councilor Abel.
There we go. I have a couple of things. This money, grant money, if awarded, would be used for a housing study. Is that correct? Didn't we just do a housing study 3 years ago at the cost of $90,000? I believe it was a mayoral initiative.
Mayor Paul, I would ask that Amy Dieknicker, who is taking the lead on this particular grant application, that she speak to that question and possibly any other questions that might come up.
Beautiful.
And I know she's in the background, so this will just take a moment. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Mr. Parker waiting on Miss Dieknicker. There's Miss Dieknicker. Good evening. There you are. Good evening. Welcome.
Hello, how are you? Thank you so much. That's a great question, Councilor Abel. We did do a housing study in 2017. The difference between this strategic housing study and the one done in 2017 is that this will actually be a study that will result in actual strategies and an action plan that will come from this. So once this study is complete, it will be complete with updated data. Obviously, 2017 is a few years earlier, and we need to do some current data collection and information kind of update the housing needs and housing conditions that we have now. And this particular plan will result in a action plan with implementation measures that will result from it.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, I thought we got the results in 18 or 19 and authorized it in 17, but I could be mistaken. My other question is, this is one of a pair of grants that's available from DOLA. This one is the Housing Strategies Planning Grant Program, and the other is the Local Government Affordable Housing Development Incentives Grant Program. Will we also be applying for the companion grant?
At this time, we have no plans to apply for the companion grant. If as we move forward and have interest and think that would be a good fit for us, we may consider it, but at this point, this is the only grant that we plan to apply for.
Okay, it just seems they fit together so well. I'm surprised that we're not looking at both of them. Although the second one does have a menu of strategies that some of us might find a couple of those strategies to be not very Lakewood-like, but Okay, thank you very much, and I appreciate your response.
Great. Any other questions or comments? I just say I'm super supportive of this, and I think that as Councilor Abel spoke to the second grant through legislation, I think this year you're going to see a lot more opportunities that could come through, and that tails back to the ARPA dollars for affordable housing. So there might be all kinds of different opportunities for governments. And so I'm excited to move forward with this, and certainly want to give a shout out to Ms. Dietnicker for her hard work on housing and homeless issues in our community. So you really led the way. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Councilor Abel, your hand is up. Is that just because I didn't lower it?
That's right.
Please cast your votes. And that passes 10 ayes, 1 nay, the nay being Councilor Jansen. Anything else under general business?
Yes, Mayor. Trying to raise my hand. There we go.
Good.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, a couple of things that are related. Since September, we've been hearing the statement of conflict of interest at every meeting. No, in the news business, I attended hundreds of public meetings, city councils, county commissions, state legislature. I have never heard this confidentiality statement made at any. And a lot of those entities had some real rascals involved in making their decisions. Nonetheless, it was never read. We've been hearing it since September at every meeting. It is no longer instructive. I think we all know what it says, and it seems to be becoming a bit punitive. Mayor, when the last council sent or authorized a letter to the Colorado Independent Ethics Committee, you said you would certainly be glad to get that decision back so you wouldn't have to read this thing anymore. Well, the decision's back. They didn't want to handle it. So I would suggest that we, if someone cannot give me a better reason for reading it than just that, oh, well, somebody might not know what it contains. Also, speaking of that IEC opinion and the or response, and that was also mentioned by a community member earlier, Mayor, 6 weeks without telling us a thing about a decision that had been made very, very publicly to try to get the IEC to rule, and the IEC decided not to rule. And yet you didn't tell anybody for 6 weeks. I was hoping that you would tell us why you haven't yet. Maybe you will tonight. Why did you keep that document from the public and your fellow council members for 6 weeks? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else under general business? All right, we'll go ahead and move into council reports. And Ms. Hodson, please.
Can I do a brief executive report?
My apologies, I didn't see anything on the agenda, so I was going to go through council reports, then asked if you have it.
Oh, that's fine. I'm sorry. I can do that at the end. It's just a little weird that the executive report is now toward the end of the meeting. And just so you know, the intent is if there's something that occurs or comments that occur during the meeting, I can potentially respond to those in a better form toward the end of the meeting. So I'll certainly wait until council reports if that's your pleasure.
Please, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry for that disruption. And I just have a few comments. Kind of on the bad news side, we are still tracking really high as it relates to employees who have either contracted the virus or have been exposed to it. So we're still tracking high, hoping for those numbers to go down soon. We're also experiencing, like everyone else in the nation, supply chain issues as it relates to dealing with our vendors. So those timeframes have been protracted and elongated and just kind of frustrating for everyone. And finally, we're also dealing with a real labor shortage. Lots of people have either resigned or retired. So we encourage anyone who wants a career in local government, please look at our website. There are really good positions in all the different departments, finance, public works, certainly police department, et cetera. So we're trying to undertake some new and creative recruiting options to see if we can't maybe attract some good employees. So if you can help get the word out, we'd sure appreciate that. Here's on the good news side, the Fox Hollow irrigation replacement system is finally completed. That took a very long time and a little disruptive, I think, for our golfers, but the project's done, so we ought to have a real good spring. The greens ought to look very nice by spring. Oh, and I'm anxious to share this with you. The Colorado School of Mines has a program, their capstone program, and one student or group of students selected a project to be completed to completely restore Heritage Lakewood's 1937 Caterpillar tractor. 1937 Caterpillar tractor. So that's a pretty cool project. And if all goes well, we should have a beautiful working tractor back on the site in time for Cider Days. So that's really exciting that a student from Colorado School of Mines wanted to take that endeavor. So we'll let you know how that goes. And finally, just another reminder, probably for the 10th time, your annual planning session is February 19th. We do have a location now. It's on the Civic Center campus in the Lakewood Cultural Center building, and it's in the community room. I'm thinking most of you know where that room is. It's very close to the theater. And it's, again, on the 19th from 9 to 4. We look forward to it. So thank you, and that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Hodson.
Sure, of course.
Okay. All right. Ward 1 reports.
No report, Mayor.
So to just reinforce what Kathy just mentioned, I just want to thank I've heard from a number of constituents, neighborhood association folks who've reached out, and we've met and discussed in front of the planning retreat things that are important to them. And so I would just encourage folks to continue to do that. And then I also want to let everyone know that on lakewoodtogether.org, there's currently a survey circulating around some improvements that we're seeing in the West Colfax corridor from Sims or Kipling to Sims. So this is a part that impacts the Ward 1 area of West Colfax, and that is open for a few more weeks. And it's a great way for you to add your voice to these sorts of projects in the community.
Great. Thank you. Ward 2.
Yes, I was just going to say that I have tried to, I think, reach out to some people, and I've offered help to any others, but it's my intent going forward to meet with coffee or talk with folks about how maybe I can assist if you have any questions. Sometimes it can be very confusing what departments to go to, where to look out for information. What is the purpose of this meeting, that meeting, et cetera. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm here to answer any questions, but I will be reaching out also. So hopefully getting to know all the new people better. And I believe that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I will just add a couple of things. I mean, I'll have another opportunity to talk about it, but just to make sure that everybody knows, the Ward 2 meetings have moved from the second Wednesday of every month to the third Wednesday of every month. And that, I think, will be at least semi-permanent. That's like the plan, is for that to be the permanent day. Still looking at hybrid meetings like we did last month, where in person will be at the Clemens Center, and then there will be a Zoom link that's available on the Lakewood City website and also my council Facebook. And then that there is a special permit hearing tomorrow at the Lakewood Library for a gas station on Colfax and Pierce. If folks would like to come either give comment, ask questions, or learn more about that process. I believe they also have a virtual option. So I'll probably repost those things online as well so that people can see them. All for me.
Great, thank you. Ward 3?
I can go. I just wanted to remind everybody that Councillor Springsteen and I will be hosting our February ward meeting on Saturday, February 12th at 9:30 a.m. That will be exclusively online, so you can sign up for updates on Ward 3 meetings at lakewood.org, and I will also be posting the link to sign up for Ward 3 notices on my Facebook shortly. We will be focusing on sustainability in our Ward 3 meeting and introducing our residents to some options for sustainable curbside pickup programs that are available in Lakewood.
Great, thank you.
Yes, and I want to thank Councilor Stewart for working so hard to put that meeting together. She's been contacting people to come and speak. It should be a really good meeting. Wanted to let people know that the courts have been shut down for trials through February 11th. A lot of people might not be aware of that. I think the U.S. district courts shut down first, and then some of the local courts did. So, that just creates a backlog of trials, unfortunately, and means we need to really think about our priorities as a city, as we did last year. It kind of made me sad to hear how other cities have significant staff enacting sustainability and such a larger staff than we do. It makes me wonder why we don't have money for that and what we have made priorities in our city that has become such of a less of a priority than in some municipalities. One example, and I'm trying to dig into this, is why my understanding is we have no insulation in government buildings in Lakewood. And I'd like to know why and how that can change. And, lesser requirements in commercial buildings that I think are half of that of residential. So these are issues I hope that come up at the retreat that I, again, have been barred from attending for the third year in a row. Also, just something that has come up with the entire congregation of St. Jude's Catholic Church in my ward. I think it's really interesting that we sometimes express concern about religious discrimination, and I'm thinking of CCU, and other times we don't express concern about religious discrimination. With regard to St. Jude's, there's a road they're concerned about being shut down that leads out of their parking lot there. And then finally, I think it's sad to hear that people who have been so involved in calling in for meetings over long periods of time, that sometimes people in our city think that those folks need to be neutralized. So, for instance, we have had people calling in with good suggestions, like forming a civilian review board for a long period of time. And then somehow those people get neutralized and silenced. And I just think that's something to be aware of. And I think that's sad because I think people have good ideas and they shouldn't be silenced that way. Thank you.
All right, Ward 4.
Thanks, Mayor Paul. First thing I wanted to do was let the community know, because there's been some outreach, that with tonight's vote on the consent agenda, we now have seated our boards and commissions for council members. And so we will be moving forward with the screening committee scheduling. So those of you that are on that, just want you to be aware that there'll be an email going out tomorrow. We'll just be trying to coordinate schedules. We've got a lot of people who have applied to be volunteers. They're very excited to be able to support the community. And so we want to get that scheduled. So be looking out for that email. The other thing I wanted to let folks know, and just because Mayor Pro Tem Vincent and myself were on the annual planning meeting, I just want to make sure everyone in the community is aware that it is, while it's difficult to coordinate 11 schedules, based on all the information that I have and all the different alternative dates, I just want to make sure that from my perspective, no one has been barred or silenced. And then certainly, obviously, anyone can speak if they believe differently. And also making sure that the meeting on the 19th of February, that's our chance as counselors to take forward community desires and things that we want to see, and get that to a vote at the annual planning meeting. So if you do have things that you want to get submitted, be sure that you make that deadline. I know that our facilitator has sent out all that information. She has offered to kind of schedule one-on-ones with folks to walk them through that process. Mayor Pro Tem Vincent and I were really wanting to make sure that all of our new counselors had that opportunity to have that one-on-one discussion, as this has been a facilitator who has worked with the city for multiple years and so can provide some perspective on that. So be sure that you reach out to her if you haven't already, and then be sure that you get in your priorities, things that you want to see advanced at that meeting. And we look forward to representing our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Olver.
Oh, I have nothing. Go ahead.
Ward 5.
Oh, should I? Is that me? I wasn't sure if Wendy was going to go. So I just want to let everybody know that we have our final draft of our newsletter. We'd like to get that populated. So if anybody wants to subscribe, they can either contact myself or Wendy and get put on that subscription. Somehow we're going to try to figure out how to get it on the lakewood.org so people can just subscribe there. And that's going to have all kinds of good things on there, everything that we're doing. Wendy has been working really hard and talking to constituents, and I'm really proud of her. She's been taking some pretty good things on, and we're getting all ready for our Ward 5. We're going to be tackling crime, safety, and traffic all in one meeting. It's going to be fun. We've got some really great people coming, and I'll let Wendy go ahead.
Councilor Strom.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to mention, so the Ward 5 meeting will be coming up Saturday, February 5th at, was it Mary, 9 a.m.? I guess at 9 or 9:30. It's on the website. But I did want to make one correction to the website, that it said that it was going to be in person in addition to Zoom, but we are 100% virtual this month. So February 5th will be Zoom only. And we will have representatives from the Lakewood Police Department and traffic there to talk about residents' concerns regarding safety and traffic on our streets. So a little bit of an update of what they're doing and a chance for us as residents to be able to ask questions and voice concerns. And as Councilwoman Stewart mentioned, I will also be posting that information on my Facebook as well, so you guys can get the correct time, as well as nextdoor.com. It's also on the website. And I also wanted to just bring up a couple of quick things about Bear Creek Lake Park. I know we've had some public feedback over the last couple of meetings about the water feasibility study, and wanted to point out that there is a good amount of information that's on the Lakewood website. If anybody's looking for information, not able to find it, do please email me. I'd be happy to share that information with you. It's wstrom@lakewood.org. And also, excitingly, not over in Bear Creek, the park, but on the Greenbelt section, we're actually beginning construction on the Greenbelt Trail Improvement Project this spring. So really excited to see that finally come to fruition. It's been a few years in the making. So look out for that as you're over there walking in the next couple of months. And that's all I've got.
Great. Well, thank you. So I would just echo again, Councilor Frank's comment. Committees are going to be all set to go. Certainly the legislature is back in session. We normally hosted a breakfast. Councilor Jansen, did you have something you left out?
I did. I wanted to know that if are they going to be having a Zoom option for council and the public for the retreat?
I'm not sure. We can get that question answered for you.
Okay.
All right. So we historically hosted a council breakfast with our legislators. And since we didn't have it seated and trying to be respectful of them, we weren't able to do that. However, they're super interested in meeting with the city council, which might actually make sense because we could do that, have that opportunity after they've already introduced some of their bills. We can have some conversation. So look for that, most likely a virtual type of meeting. And they said Friday afternoons are usually best for them. So that would be something that there's an interest in. Certainly our screening committee, we have a lot of work and a lot of folks in positions that are out there. I know there's 2 planning commission seats in wards 2 and 3. So if folks are interested in those, we would encourage you to be a part of that. I think it's important to note a couple things. You know, it is tough to schedule 11 people plus others for a meeting. And, you know, this is a priority when you run for council. And I've tried to make it so everybody can attend. Last year we had it all virtually and still didn't get full attendance. I've offered to try to find childcare to make sure that we could have full, attendance. And I see Councilor Springsteen shaking her head. It's in all of our emails. And if you would like help with childcare or virtual assistance, we will bend over backwards. The problem was the dates, we would start to lose 2 or 3 different people. And so again, this is something that we all run into and hope that, folks realize that we do the best that we can when we do that. I also wanted to touch base on, we have wonderful folks that call in, and part of the job is to reach out to those people and have conversations. And I think that's what you've seen. And I've certainly had those with one in particular who has called in and is really, learning a lot more about our city and how it operates. And so I would encourage those council members who might have, different ideas or assumptions to take that same time, to weight a sustainability group just by the number of people. I don't think is quite fair when you're doing those sorts of things. And Ms. Hodgson's a great resource if you have questions about the folks that work at our city and for our city. Remember, that's her job. She's in charge of all personnel, and I think she does an incredible job. And we're in charge of policy, and so that's the kind of that difference. And we've heard that in the past, and we've had those conversations going forward. So we're all trying to get through this. We want to make sure everybody's voice is heard, and it's certainly not easy. And I know sometimes tensions can run high. But this is an exciting new group of folks that are already out in the community and doing different things. So I'm anxious for the planning retreat. And so with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting and we're going to go back into another meeting. So I'll adjourn this meeting at 8:32 p.m. And then I'm going to call order Lakewood Reinvestment Authority special meeting of January 24th, 2022. The meeting ID for this or telephone number is 720-707-2699. Webinar ID 924-5294-3958. Pound and then pound once again. *9 to request to speak and *6 to unmute. So I call this to order. The virtual special meeting of the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority on January 21st, 2022 at 8:33 p.m. Will the clerk please call roll?
Paul,
Here.
Abel,
Here.
Franks,
Here.
Jensen,
Here.
Mayor Guerrero,
Here.
Olver,
Here.
Sharzai,
Here.
Springsteen.
I want to note that my hand was put down twice before the other meeting was ended, and it's been put down again. I had a response.
All right, Commissioner, we're doing roll call right now. Your hand was not put down.
Yes, it was put down by you, Mayor,
All right.
twice.
Madam Clerk, please proceed. I'm sorry.
Stewart,
Here.
Strome,
Here.
Vincent.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right. So we'll now open public comment for the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority. This is your opportunity to address the City Council on anything pertaining to the Reinvestment Authority. Same rules, 3 minutes, name and address or name and ward, and I'll start your time. Madam Clerk?
Excuse me, call ending in 5361.
All right, 5361. Let me get timer here. All right, you are unmuted, ready to go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just grab my note real quick.
Okay.
I was just wondering, is y'all's retreat, is it going to be in person or virtual?
Okay, do you have public comment for the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority?
Well, I was just wondering, I mean, I had a question about what was talked about a minute ago, and there was no public comment for that. So I was just wondering if you could, answer the question of, I was just curious if the retreat was virtual or in person.
So,
hello?
Yes, we're here. Do you have any public comment, please?
Oh, you can't answer the question, Mayor?
I'll answer it at the end of the meeting. Do you have public comment though?
It's one word. It's just virtual or in person. It's just one word.
Okay. Thank you for your public.
Isn't this the LRA meeting, Mayor?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I thought. It's not general public comment. Is that correct?
It's public comment.
Unless it's the LRA. Okay.
LRA, but if there's something you want to talk about regarding the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority, please. If not, I thank you for that. And we'll move to the next. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, we'll close general public comment and move to the consent agenda. So I'm just going to actually negate the consent. I'm going to read item 4. Commissioner Jansen has an amendment that she wants to make and then a question regarding that. So we'll just do the resolution separate from the minutes. So let's just take a motion on resolution 2022-1.
Would you like me to read it into the record, Mayor?
Please.
Item 4, Resolution LRA 2022-1, designating the public place for posting notices pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-402 of public meetings of the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority for the years 2022 and 2023.
Great. Commissioner Vincent, can you please make a motion?
Absolutely. Chairman Paul, I move for the approval of the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority minutes and for the adoption of the resolution, all of which are included in the consent agenda. Items introduced into the record.
No, 1 second, please. Could you just make a motion to approve resolution LRA 2022-1?
I sure can. I move to, for the adoption of resolution LRA 2022-1.
Second.
Okay, within a second, Commissioner Jensen, if you please make your motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend the second paragraph of the resolution, which prescribes where the notice is posted. This is found on page 4 of the packet. The resolution second paragraph states that the notice shall be posted in the atrium 480 South Allison Parkway. I would like to amend that sentence to read, and I'm going to read the whole thing. The lobby atrium area within the Lakewood Civic Center, 480 South Allison Parkway, and the city's official website are hereby designated as the public places for the posting of notices of Lakewood Reinvestment Authority, LRA, public meetings in 2022, and shall be used for all local public bodies as defined by CRS 24-6-4022-C. Notices shall be posted at least, well, I was going to ask you about that, about the 10 days prior to the meeting.
Yeah, I had not seen a response. I'd sent that in last night as to our posting requirements. I don't know if this is different or if this mirrors. So let's stop there. And if you want a secondary motion. So the motion is essentially to add the website as a posting place to the atrium. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? And just for clarification, Madam Clerk or Ms. McKinney Brown, do we post both places already, just like we did last week or a couple weeks ago with our regular postings? You're on mute, Madam McKinney Brown.
Yes, we do post to both places for everything. One of the things I should note is that the amendment, and the amendment's generally fine, but the amendment includes the language and shall be used for all local public bodies. That's beyond the scope of this resolution. This resolution is limited to the LRA postings. So broadening the language to include the website for LRA postings is absolutely fine and conforms to what the city is already doing and conforms to 24-6-402.
Okay. So with that, Commissioner and Commissioners Abel and Jensen, do you want to withdraw those and narrow that?
I will withdraw my second.
And I will withdraw.
Okay. All right. And do you want to restate to pertaining strictly to the LRA that notices will be posted in conformance with the CRS in the atrium and online?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any more discussion? Okay, please cast your votes. All right, that passes 10 ayes, 0 nays. And the second part was a question as to the posting requirements. I know that we try to post everything, I think, on Lakewood Speaks 10 days in advance. Ms. Hodson, did I say 10 instead of 11? All right, forgive me. 11 ayes, 0 nays. So to that, what are our posting time requirements for the LRA?
I've got a little bit longer answer. So at the CML conference last fall, there was an actual presentation by another city about open meetings. And they said that they were modeling their new open meetings laws on Lakewood because they were so impressed by how transparent Lakewood is as a city. And I just thought that that was such a wonderful thing to say about Lakewood, is that other cities are modeling on what Lakewood is doing. But to speak directly to what the mayor asked, we follow state law, and state law mandates that postings be 24 hours in advance. And if they're 24 hours in advance, they are posted in conformance with state law. The city can, by ordinance, expand the amount of time that things are posted, where the city's already posting things generally 10 to 11 days in advance on Lakewood Speaks, but its legal postings are in conformance with state law, so they are a minimum of 24 hours and typically more days than that.
So an amendment, if there was an amendment to change this resolution, we could not do that. It would have to come via ordinance.
Anything about the timing isn't about amending this resolution. It'd be about amending state law. And we can do that as long as we are more restrictive than state law, and mandating that all postings be at least 10 days in advance would be significantly more stringent than state law. But that, again, to make that modification would require an ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jensen, does that suffice? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on resolution LRA 2022-1. Actually, Commissioner Vincent, could you restate the motion as amended? So just 2022-1, make a motion as amended.
As amended. I move for the adoption of resolution LRA 2022-1 as amended.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. All right, that passes 11 ayes, 0 nays. May I also have a motion for item 5, approval of, and you can just say so moved, I guess, approval of minutes of Lakewood Reinvestment Authority, October 25th, 2021.
I move for the approval of the, okay, I'm sorry, let me do that. You're all off script tonight. Chairman Paul, I move for the approval of the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority minutes of 2025 to, I don't have a date.
October 25th, 2021, please.
October 25th, 2021.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. All right. Passes 11 ayes, 0 nay. So now we have a mirror item to, I think, what we saw earlier. So I'll ask the clerk to please read item 6, resolution LRA 2022-2 in the record.
Item 6, resolution LRA 2022-2, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement, IGA, with the Alameda Corridor Business Improvement District, the City of Lakewood, and the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority, LRA, for the maintenance of the Alameda streetscape improvements.
Okay, so we had well, my script says you're going to present a PowerPoint. Is it different than before, Mr. Smith?
It's abbreviated, but it's very, very similar. So if it suffices that folks have got all the information that they need to be able to work on that, we don't necessarily have to do the presentation, but I certainly can go through the slides if the commission would like me to do so.
All right, I'm getting a lot of thumbs up that I think this suffices. And for those tuning in, City Council in a different role approved this just a few minutes ago. And so now we'll take a look at doing this now. And I'll open the public hearing on resolution LRA 2022-2. If anybody wishes to speak to this resolution, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, I'll ask Commissioner Vincent for a motion.
I move for the adoption of resolution LRA 2022-2.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. All right, that passes 11 ayes, 0 nays. Next on, I have adjournment, but I've heard that, all right. Commissioner Jensen?
Yes, what's the upcoming proposal increase to change the LRA bar to composition?
All right, so if we do change the makeup or if we change our boundaries, by state statute, we have to add membership to the LRA board. And so I think that would be up to 3 members of different special districts or commissioners would have to be part of that if we change the process.
And when is that going to happen?
I don't think that there has been an ask yet. I think there's probably a study session, and it would be up to city council to decide if they, or the commission to decide if they want to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
And again, I guess forgive me for going a little bit out of order, but going back to the retreat, I'm not part of the planning, and the goal was to have it in person, as we heard from many of you. And so I'm not sure at this time. The goal was, again, to have it live. And when I have better information at this point, it is supposed to be live. And if that changes, I'll let you know. Commissioner Springsteen.
Oh, goodness. I'm allowed to talk. That's amazing. So I just wanted to clarify if we're talking about the retreat and the last meeting, that our policies and procedures specifically restrict discrimination on the basis of family status. For the last 2 years, I have been discriminated with regard to this retreat on the basis of my family status, which is being a single mother. And I understand that there may be a mayor or other counselors who are not parents, who do not understand the situation a single parent is in, who only gets their children 26 Saturdays a year. And those children have been through a lot and cannot lose their mom on a particular Saturday. And so I know that that is not looked upon as a reason to not be able to come to the retreat, because our society looks down on motherhood and single parenthood. But the reality is that that's the best reason to not come to the retreat. And so it's not about childcare. It's about that you all are not supporting me and backing me as a single parent who has children who depend on me 26 Saturdays a year is all I get with them. Thank you.
Okay. All right, council. Thank you. Commissioners. Thank you all so much for your time this evening. And I'll remind the community that we are off on the 31st. Yay, 5th Monday. And then we will be back on the 7th. And I think, Ms. Hodson, we're getting back to how the city works. I think we're getting back into those for the study session.
We are, and if I can remind you, the meeting on the 7th actually starts at 5:30. We're trying to do 2 more City Hall 101s before your annual planning session. And I know we're really trying to shoehorn these in, but thought it would be helpful for you to have as much information about the organization as possible before you have these broader conversations about planning for Lakewood's future. So at 5:30, actually, we're going to have Community Resources do a presentation. They'll be doing their 101. And then the following Monday is our final one before your planning session. That's on February 14th. And you're going to get 101 from the city attorney's office. And then we can slow down a little bit and pace our 101s after the planning session. We just want to make sure you got the big departments so you'd have a kind of a better understanding about the operations of the city as you enter into your planning session. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.